7:38 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. It is Tuesday, December 3rd. Hope you're doing well. Dan Mandis along with Johnny B. and Joan Jones. Laura Ingram's show had Governor Ron DeSantis on, I think this was last night, and she asked him what he thought of Kash Patel as FBI director, and he said that he loved the pick, but beyond that, he also said this about Donald Trump and his picks for a cabinet.
And so I think Donald Trump in this pick and others, he's making sure he's getting people who have the proper posture to these institutions. These are not the revered institutions that they may have been 30 years ago. These are very problematic institutions. Kash understands that. I think a lot of Republican senators understand that, but apparently not enough do.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I've got CNN right now. GOP, FBI is doing an excellent job. You ask Republicans, 2014, 62% of Republicans said that the FBI was doing a good job. These days, that number is 26%. And I'd be willing to bet if you asked your average Republican right now what they think about the FBI, it's not good. And Ron DeSantis, governor for the state of Florida, he is absolutely right when you're talking about Kash Patel and others is they know what's going on within those agencies. Certainly Kash Patel does with the FBI. Matthew Hurtt is joining us on this Newsmaker hotline here on WTN. And Matthew, you just heard what Governor DeSantis had to say about Trump being allowed some deference when it comes to his cabinet picks. I mean, President Trump knows what he wants.
Dan, this is absolutely right. And by and large, the party in power in the Senate who holds the White House does tend to give deference to the president. Governor DeSantis is right. What we're seeing as we head into 2025 with these confirmation battles is an unprecedented level of intransigence from the Democrats and maybe some foot dragging from Republicans. And I think the strong words from Governor DeSantis will put some of those Republicans back in their place to give Donald Trump the cabinet he needs to do what he's trying to accomplish over the next 4 years.
You know, Matthew, we're talking earlier about all of these accusations against Pete Hegseth. And, you know, we're talking about, does character matter anymore at this point? And I mean, we went all the way back in this conversation with Joan and Johnny. We went back to JFK. Of course, you can talk about Donald Trump, known philanderer. I mean, nobody's ever really denied that. And now we have the situation with Pete Hegseth. And, part of my opinion is that we've got Joe Biden. I don't know if Joe Biden has ever strayed from his wife or whatever, but what I can tell you is that if he hasn't, it doesn't matter. He has completely screwed up the country. And so you've got Washington, D.C. full of people that have no doubt cheated on their spouses. You also have people that have not cheated on their spouses. But the point that I'm making is that just because you've been faithful to your spouse does not mean that you've been faithful to the American people or the Constitution. So I guess my long-winded, of course, question is, from your standpoint, from your vantage point in Washington, D.C., how much will all of these accusations matter at the end of the day to senators about Pete Hegseth, and should he be confirmed?
Do we want our elected representatives and their appointees to be men and women of good character? Yes, and particularly on the right side of the aisle, conservatives, because those are the values and the principles we espouse. But Washington, D.C. is a swamp for a number of reasons, not least of which is the personal lives of senators and lobbyists and appointed representatives of the government. At this point, I want somebody who's going to go in and do the job and think outside the box and carry out an America First agenda that shakes up Washington. And we're not going to do that by appointing the same kinds of people. And unfortunately, in some instances, the people that Donald Trump is going to try to run through this process are going to have some skeletons in their closet. You and I have talked about this a number of times. Good people stay out of politics because they don't want their personal lives dragged through the mud. They don't want their families dragged through the mud. They don't want every bankruptcy or misgiving to be plastered on the front page of the Washington Post. But it's going to take people who are willing to fight back and who shake off those critiques and criticisms to get the job done. This is important work. And I think Pete Hegseth and others are strong candidates for the offices for which the president-elect is trying to nominate them. And I think we need to run through this process and get as many of Donald Trump's good people across the finish line as possible.
You know, when you talk about Kash Patel, you talk about Pete Hegseth, and they both have been critical of the departments or agencies that they're wanting to take over. And I think for me, I get why Donald Trump, Pam Bondi is another one for AG. I get where Donald Trump is going. He's looking for a particular state of mind, a particular opinion where he's bringing in people that understand that there are challenges. There have been challenges. There are challenges, and these departments need to be cleaned up. And here's the thing. When oftentimes, if you are running a company, let's just say you're looking for a CEO, and Donald Trump knows all about this. If you're looking for a CEO and you know that your company is in a lot of trouble and you're losing money and you've got, too many people working for you, maybe you're bloated and all that, you're interviewing people. Do you want people that are going to say, oh, everything's great with this company? Or do you want someone to look you in the eye and say, there's a lot of problems and we need to clean it up? Obviously, you're looking for the person that is going to help reform that company. That's, at least to me, all Donald Trump is doing.
Yes, we need people who will, one, tell it like it is, and two, think outside the box. And three, bring something to the table that isn't the same old status quo inside Washington, D.C. And I think, again, as we look at the personal lives of some of these appointees or nominations as they go through the process, we have seen historically in the last several years conversations about what the D.C. swamp has on good people or has on those people who shake things up. And I think we've got to go forward with this. And Donald Trump does have a good idea. The theme of what he's trying to accomplish, I think, is serious and it's good. And we have to support these kinds of nominees to get the job done. Otherwise, we're going to be sitting in a situation 2.5 years into the second administration of Donald Trump, and he will not be able to get anything accomplished in the last 18 months of his second administration.
Matthew, I don't know how much time you spend watching viral videos and so forth, but when you talk about Hunter Biden and you talk about the pardon, it was a big topic of conversation yesterday. Here's audio from a video that I've posted to the Dan Mandis Show X feed, and it's audio of Senator Joe Biden.
If you have a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, $1/4 of $1. We passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation. You get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Mm-hmm. Judge doesn't have a choice. They must be taken off the street.
And so on the other side of the screen, you've got, of course, Hunter Biden smoking clearly, I would say, more than $1/4's worth of crack. So I guess the question is very hypocritical, and that is going viral.
You're right, Dan, and I've got serious qualms about the disparity between cocaine and crack cocaine. What the Senate did and what Congress did in the 80s. I've got some serious concerns about that. We have a two-tiered criminal justice system that allows politically connected people like Hunter Biden to get off scot-free, and then there are thousands of Americans who have fallen into addiction, fallen into the criminal element that comes with that, and they don't get a break. And they don't get a break because they're not Hunter Biden. This is hypocrisy. This is nepotism. This is a dangerous place to be. And I was encouraged yesterday, Dan, on X, seeing a few Democrats, a few progressives call into question the motivation behind this pardon. It is so wide-ranging. There was one issue where Hunter Biden didn't pay, I think, $300,000 in rent on a place that he rented out in California, and even that is pardoned. So there's wide-ranging implications to this, both on the victims of Hunter Biden's largesse in connection to Joe Biden, and then there are serious questions abound about what it means to be well connected in the political space.
Well, and of course, the pardon goes back to 2014 when Hunter started working for Burisma. So to me, that tells me, of course, that Joe Biden is trying to protect his family, because if you go after Hunter Biden 2014, you find out about Burisma. That leads us to Ukraine. That leads us to influence peddling. That implicates Joe Biden. And so, and by the way, Joe's brother Jim as well. So, I mean, there's so many, and you're right, wide-ranging implications on all of this. And I think that, Joe Biden's legacy was already, dude is a walking stain when it comes to his legacy. And I don't think that, for me, I don't think his legacy can get any worse, to be honest.
Well, and this is, again, why it is so important that these nominations that Donald Trump has put forward are seriously considered and confirmed, because they are not the swamp dwellers that Joe Biden has surrounded himself with, including members of his own family. This is again one of the major themes of Donald Trump's accomplishment, or what he's trying to accomplish as he goes into his second term, is draining the swamp and actually putting people in place who are competent, who are capable, and who can get things done outside of the way that DC thinks. So yeah, this is a terrible precedent for the president to pardon his son. The wide-ranging implications of the pardon are serious, and we should be asking tough questions about it.
All right. Matthew, did we miss anything here? I think it was a pretty wide-ranging interview, but I don't think we missed anything, did we?
Whirlwind conversation, Dan. If we did miss anything, you can catch it on my X at Matthew Hurtt, MatthewHurtt.
All right, 7:52, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. That video, by the way, of Joe Biden holding a quarter, talking about crack cocaine, and, if you're caught, you're going to spend 5 years in jail. The other side of the split screen is Hunter Biden smoking. It's not funny. Smoking the crack cocaine and really talking about the disparity. And by the way, also in that video, you also see a bunch of men behind bars spending literally time in prison for something that Hunter Biden has now been pardoned for. It is unbelievable. So yeah, I think that Joe Biden is a walking stain in more ways than one.